So the topic is immigration policy. And so I was trying to explain this a little bit to my son the other day, that, people who look like us came from somewhere else. And so Americans, there's no such thing as Americans. And I said, even the people who were here before the Europeans got here came from someplace else, right? And so we went and watched some video about a theory and story about the migration of people across the surface of this planet over time. And that's related to immigration policy, right? And so when people come into a new place, they will displace whatever was there, whether it's plants or animals or other people. And that's been happening. And so, there's different ways to immigrate. There's certain immigration policies that will be more disruptive than others. And so you could come into a place and just light it on fire and you could destroy all the life that's there. A very destructive immigration policy. And then there's an immigration policy where you attempt to respect what's there. You don't want to come in and just destroy it. But even if you come in and try to respect what's there, your mere presence will change it. It's unavoidable. The immigration will transform. So there's different immigration policies. Some are more respectful, some are less respectful. And no matter what, there will be transformation. And so I think, good people want to stand for good immigration policy, which is respectful, which allows for transformation towards the good. But what is the good, And then I think it goes without saying that there is immigration policy, which is, less respectful and less beneficial, and it all depends on what you think is good. And so if you really try to love people, you will be able to see how people with what they think are good, their kind of relative morality, will perceive the destruction of the good. And simultaneously, other people will see the transformation towards the better. And the same thing will be happening, but different people will see a different story. And then, there's so many things that can be good or bad, like the transformation of language, the transformation of food, of art, of culture. As there will be a conservative type that will see that the erosion and destruction of the old ways is bad, and a liberal type will see that the transformation of the old conservative ways towards a better is good. And then you have I would say at the end of the day, it's important that we, as a Christian, there's certain definitions of what is good. And so it's hard for a Christian leader to do anything except model the right way of being. It's hard for a Christian leader to fight and to use force. When our King only used force in an attempt to clean and purify and baptize his Father's house. And so I guess a Christian can imagine that the nation is their Father's house, and can then begin to imagine that they can do like Jesus and use force and threat and fear and being mean in order to cleanse their Father's house, the temple. And so, yeah, if Christians believe the United States of America is their Father's house and is their temple, then they will easily very easily side with those who use force and instill fear and act in mean ways. And so I guess the question for Christians is, what is the Father's house? And I think Christians are very confused about what is the Father's house. And it's very easy for us to believe that something is the Father's house. This is why we have a lot of denominations of Christianity. We can begin to believe that one denomination and their building is a temple. And then, even if the United States could be the Father's house, what does it mean to purify it and clean it? Does it mean that you strictly obey the law? And I would say no. I don't think Jesus was an advocate for strictly obeying the law. He was an advocate for loving people. And so a Christian leader who aims to make the United States of America the Father's house will need to approach the law carefully, with love, attempting to love people. And so I imagine, it comes down to the book of Romans and interpretations of the book of Romans, and where St. Paul wrote to the Romans and encouraged them to be respectful of the law, of the government. And people interpret, the verse where Jesus talked about render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's and render unto God's what is God's. And so what is Christianity? And how should the perfect Christian, what's the standard for the Christian in relation to the law, to the government? And they were disagreeing about this in Germany when Hitler was in power. And so I could give you my answers, and then, the Catholic Church and the Pope would give an answer, and the bishops would give an answer, and the evangelicals, the Southern Baptists, the Methodists, all of the different denominations will give answers about what it means to be a Christian, and what it means, and what what the temple, what the Father's house would look like. And so even the non-Christians are participating in this wanting the good, wanting, like everyone has this vision of what the good person is, and what the ideal is, and what the good is. And so, if I were a Christian leader aiming at growing the country towards being a temple, which serves the Father, what would I do with my enemies? So take the worst case, that there may be a few, 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000 people. Let's just try to be generous. There's very few people who are the worst case people. And what do you do as a leader when you have people who are the worst kinds of people? And so I think you ultimately need a good prison system. And I don't think you take your enemies and then ship them back over the border if you're a Christian leader. I think you go seek out those dangerous predators, whether they're immigrants or not, and you put them into a kind of rehabilitation prison system, where knowing that God loves them, and where they hopefully learn that God loves them. I think you create an environment where you attempt to encourage people to be more loving. You attempt to help people understand the laws that exist and why they exist. And ultimately, I think a good Christian leader has to discriminate. And that's a word that's been corrupted. We've created a system. We want to create systems without discrimination, because when there is discrimination, you can have evil people discriminate in evil ways, and you can have righteous people discriminate in righteous ways. And so in the name of fairness only, it's not real fairness, but in the name of fairness, we would prefer a non-discrimination law. And so you can begin to try and love the people who believe in law because they don't trust people to discriminate with love and righteousness, in cooperation with God. That's why people cling to the law, is because people don't trust people. There's a lack of trust in the people. So that's why we end up with a whole bunch of people who are being shipped. They are afraid to be shipped out of the country. It's because there's a lack of trust. There would rather be a trust in the law than a trust in people and a capacity to decide to find people who know God. And so a good Christian leader will end up causing people who believe that they are good Christians to feel bad about who they are, because the good Christian leader will be, I don't know what it means to be a good Christian leader. Does a good Christian leader cause people to feel bad? And, if you look to Jesus, that's what he did, is he made people feel bad when he went and cleansed the temple. He made them feel fear, anger, hurt, accused. They felt accused. They thought he was being mean. They thought he was being self-centered, that he didn't care about them and what they wanted. And so, I think a good Christian leader is going to make people feel those things, and is going to discriminate, and is not going to obey the laws. The law is made for man. The man is not made for the law. The law is not meant to be, the law is not perfect, and it is not meant to be perfect. It is not meant to be followed all the time, absolutely at every moment. And if anyone were being honest with themselves, they would see that the law should not be treated as perfect. And so, a good Christian leader will be honest about the situation and will love people more than they love the law. And it is sad that we have not improved our systems of government such that we can find good Christian leaders is very sad. It's sad that we haven't improved our information technologies so that we have good Christian leaders within our helping to make decisions for the information which gets shared. That's a question. Is the information being shared, is it lies being shared? Is Donald Trump going to enforce the law? Or is he trying to be a good Christian man who is being honest, who is not going to enforce the law completely because he serves a loving God, best represented by Jesus Christ? And is it perhaps a situation that those who control what information is being produced and spread, the news that is being spread, are those people lying and causing fear in people, unnecessary fear in people who are good people? So which is it? Is it that there is a rational fear within good people who broke laws? Or is it that there is an irrational fear within good people who broke laws because of the information produced by evil people, right? Can you trust the information? Or is it the case that we have a president who just is a tyrant who wants to enforce the law in a non-Christian way? Like, those are three. Do we have a good president, or do we have a bad president? And is it a bad president who's being exposed by the good media, or is it a good president who's being lied about by bad media? And if I'm being honest, there's no one who's perfect. So the president is neither perfectly righteous or perfectly evil. This is why I want the mind reading instrument. I want to be able to know how trustworthy this guy is. And similarly, nobody's perfect, and what is the media being perfect? And I guess there's a part of me that wants to trust Donald Trump more than I trust the media. And so then I want to go ask questions to the people who are listening to the media.